April 13th, 2024, started off as an ordinary day at the Westfield Shopping Centre in Bondi Junction, Sydney, Australia. Shoppers going about their tasks, perhaps picking out a gift, buying groceries, or enjoying a Shirley lunch. But the mundane was shattered when a 40-year-old man unleashed a violent stabbing spree that would leave 6 people dead and 8 others injured. Post-COVID, does this sort of horror surprise anyone? Notwithstanding those that have closed their eyes to the societal shift that co-occurred with the melding of social norms with the long, outreached arm of what could be construed as a slow march to authoritarianism, generations may ponder whether such an unaddressed, mass psychological trauma, resulting from possibly the most shameful chapter of self-degradation en masse in human history, shall invariably entail horrific consequences, with such otherwise unexpected events further being shaped into societal norms. At the Westfield in Sydney, the chaos unfolded with an alarming speed. The suspect, armed with a knife, allegedly rampaged through the shopping centre, sowing terror and confusion in his wake. Amidst the pandemonium, the police responded with, on first blush, appeared to be commendable speed and courage. The officer who shot the suspect was praised for her swift action, potentially saving more lives from being lost. The Bollard man, too, was rightfully praised. It does raise the question, though. Has the loss of family values and community expectations upon men left us in a weakened position whereby men, the natural barrier to such events occurring, are no longer attached to their roles as protectors and providers? Is it the case that the attack in Bondi Junction in Sydney was a tragedy where no one was left to protect the innocent? Furthermore, if an attacker wields a knife, isn't the appropriate course of action in line with police procedures to inflict the least amount of harm necessary, to shoot the assailant in the lower leg, effectively disabling them? Such a course of conduct may have resulted in a far more thorough investigation through questioning, potentially resulting in greater transparency regarding the assailant's motive. As the dust settled in Westfield in Sydney, the shopping centre transformed into a scene of unthinkable horror. Shoppers and employees alike were left in shock. Their regular day turned into a nightmare they would never forget. In the aftermath of the carnage, 8 people lay injured, including a 9-month-old baby, and 6 lives were tragically cut short. A quick browse of the media's response to the tragedy may leave a bad taste in one's mouth if you consume too much of what the Australian media was dishing up. Outlets like Channel 7, 9, 10, and ABC and SBS seem to love nothing more than to report on grisly incidents such as these. That is what makes their colorful terminology of such events, such as the highly cliched "a nightmare they would never forget," so nauseatingly hypocritical. Perhaps more accountability is needed in order that we may return to the boring and tedious task of merely reporting facts as they are presented, if the media are to sustain any chance of vouchsafing some integrity. The media reports that the victims were individuals who had dreams, hopes, and aspirations. Yet the common thread that binds them all is the senseless tragedy that befell them. This sort of commentary from our Australian media, entering into fully gratuitous territory in terms of the cheapest emotional appeal, may be offensive to the critical thinkers, given that, as has already been stated, the media appears to be taking full advantage in such terrible occurrences. The media reports that the victims were more than just statistics. They were people who mattered, who had families and communities that loved them. Their loss is a stark reminder of the devastating ripple effects of such senseless acts of violence. Is the media only concerned with people as statistics, though? Have they ignored the Pakistani male security guard, having merely mentioned him in passing, now fixating on building a narrative instead of reporting what has happened? The bulk of news stories from this Australian siege focus on the outcome that more women than men were killed or injured, and therefore this was an attack on women. On the face of it, this is an absurd claim, since for that to be self-evident would require that only women were attacked. Also, the motives are unclear. It is conceivable that women were targeted because they are generally easier to attack, and even on grounds of that eventuality, the claim cannot be substantiated given the likelihood of convenience. Those attacked were targeted simply because they had the misfortune to be in the perpetrator's vicinity. Regardless, it is horrific that women were predominantly attacked. However, Is it illogical, as well as politically opportunistic, to suggest that this attack was motivated solely by antagonism towards women, when not only women were targeted? Immediately following the incident, a whirlwind of misinformation began to circulate about Cauchy's identity. Rumors and speculation spread across social media platforms, painting him as a Muslim or Jewish man. According to the media, this misinformation, unfortunately, fueled a rise in anti-Muslim sentiments, further deepening the divides within our community. In the face of such a tragedy, it's alarming how quickly misinformation can spread and take root. The immediate aftermath saw a surge in anti-Muslim sentiments, according to the news reports, despite the eventual clarification that Cauchy was, in fact, a white Christian man. The media points out that the killer was a white, Christian man, yet purport to be unbiased and wanting to avoid creating an atmosphere of prejudice and discrimination. Is hostility towards so-called rednecks, who are typically white Christian, and men being fomented by the media? Is there a media narrative fueling anti-white Christian male dogma through the lens of anti-Trump hysteria? What is the most clear feature of the assailant? Wash's mental illness and estrangement from family. In the normal course of events, this is what ought to be made relevant. Yet so far, very little regarding his psychological disorientation and medical history has surfaced. The media reports have suggested that such an incident serves as a stark reminder of the harm that misinformation can cause, and the responsibility we'll share in disseminating accurate information. However, couldn't these calls for unity be considered as a puerile example of moralizing, gaslighting even? Are the media utilizing this event to drive Oj further into an already divided society? Are the media taking advantage of tenuous claims of sexist discrimination against women, religious motive, by claiming he was a Christian? In short, potentially fanning the flames of human outrage by appealing to prejudicial sentiments? Understanding the truth about the perpetrator is critical, not just for setting the record straight, but also for preventing the spread of harmful stereotypes and prejudices. As has already been noted, however, no serious examination has entered the mainstream picture regarding the perpetrator's history of psychological ill health, his mental health records, ingested medication, family history, and forensic history. Without this, the notion of forming anything like a complete picture is hopeless. The media suggests that this tragedy unmasks an unsettling reality that Australia, like many other societies, grapples with: violence against women. The incident at the Westfield Shopping Centre in Bondi Junction is a sobering reflection of this ongoing issue, according to this narrative. Most reports in the mainstream would like to focus on the attack as one on women, a narrative that has elements of truth, no doubt, but a narrative all the same. The issues of reporting are a global crisis that requires immediate and concerted action. We need to challenge the cultural norms and societal structures that perpetuate bias, and instead try to address the direct factors that lead to violence. Much of the media narrative appears to be self-serving, groundless, inflammatory speculation insofar as this particular incident is concerned. Again, this was almost certainly not an attack targeted towards women. As it played out, this was almost certainly an indiscriminate attack whereby the killer simply attacked whomever happened to be in the near vicinity. So what are the factors that amounted to this horror occurring? Is the media interested in determining the intersecting factors? It appears not. Mental illness, psychotropic drugs, a history of disaffection and loneliness and family discord. All the available evidence suggests that the killer was warm and even charismatic, and without proper journalism that seeks to unveil other such contributing factors, the lesson will not be learnt. Further attacks will happen, and we will be none the wiser, while the media may even be further cementing the seeds from which further attacks might occur. What is the truth, and what is the narrative? Who owns this narrative? Whose vested interest is being carried forth by propelling such narratives?